Hello, and welcome to a Patreon exclusive episode of Allegedly Astrology. Each episode, we break down the astrology that happened during some of the biggest scandals and events in history.
And before we get started, we want to welcome our new patrons. So welcome Sarah, Brandy, Priscilla, and Alicia.
Woo, we love those names. You guys are awesome.
Welcome.
We're excited to have you. So Dana, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about the Gilgo Beach Murders.
Yes. We love true crime around here, and we haven't done one on the Patreon in a minute. So we're excited to chat about this. So the Gilgo Beach serial killings were a series of murders involving the discovery of the remains of 16 victims around Gilgo Beach along the South Shore of Long Island in New York. And recently the case has been in the news because there was a huge breakthrough and a suspect has been arrested. This is a really big deal, so let's learn about the case and its astrology.
So this case all started with a missing woman named Shannon Gilbert, and Shannon was a sex worker that went missing on May 1st, 2010. She had called 911 shortly before 5 a.m. the day she went missing, and she was telling the dispatcher that there was someone after her. But unfortunately, they did not help her, and her remains were discovered several months later in a marsh not far from where she was last seen. So what was going on when she disappeared?
Shannon placed her 911 call on May 2nd, 2010 at 4:51 a.m. from Long Island, New York. And this chart has a sun in Taurus, a moon in Sagittarius, and an Aries rising. So the sun in Taurus is about pleasures of the flesh, maybe about hiring, a sex worker. The moon in Sagittarius is about having fun and escapism, which ties back to pleasures of the flesh. And also the moon in Sagittarius can be about anger. Sagittarius is the only sign with a weapon. And the moon is about emotion. So it can be like impulsive behavior. Aries is rising. It's also an impulsive sign. It's also can be self-directed or self-involved. It's ruled by Mars and Leo in the 5th house, which is the house of sex and affairs. And extramarital affairs especially, or also just dating, but in this case, it really applies. And so an Aries rising ruled by Mars and Leo can be like intensely creative for a normal person, but in this case, it's honestly about like murdering and ravaging a woman. And so she was murdered 3 days after a full moon in Scorpio, ruled by and square Mars and Leo, which indicates excess tension. Leo needs to achieve self-actualization, and Scorpio is often about suffering and enduring transformation. With these placements and the sun in Taurus, it's like selfishly motivated and kind of like an opportunistic murder. Saturn's also in Virgo, and this is both reverence and disdain for purity. Saturn is hate, and Virgo is a sign of virginity. So this is like reductively hatred of sex workers. And the moon in Sagittarius opposite Venus in Gemini. So the moon is about mothers and women in general. Venus also relates to women and beauty and young women. So this is like the feminine archetypes being at odds, and infidelity is possible with Venus and Gemini. It's a sign of twos, so it's like splitting. Also, Shannon's sun and moon were in water signs, and her body was found near water, which is just interesting and sad.
Weird. That's crazy. The Mars in the 5th house in Leo and the whole chart being ruled by that is pretty crazy. And I never thought of Sag as being angry, but I know.
Oh my God. Have you heard me talk sometimes? I'm nuts.
Also, Dana, the term pleasures of the flesh sounds like a really dark, scary movie or something. So
yeah, I mean,
don't want to hear that term anytime soon.
Sorry.
Yeah,
it's true though.
Anyway, while police were searching for Shannon, they found the remains of 4 other women. And the first set of remains that were found belonged to Melissa Bartholomew. Then 2 days later, police found 3 more sets of human remains belonging to Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. And the cause of death of all four women was determined to be homicidal violence. And they all happened to be sex workers that were petite in body shape.
And after these initial discoveries, they unfortunately kept finding remains. So they found Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, the remains of a toddler, and an Asian male. 2 sets of remains were also found off Ocean Parkway, about 7 miles from Gilgo Beach. And some of the remains they discovered have still yet to be identified.
Yes. And for years, the case went cold, and some people felt that the reason for that had to do with law enforcement failures, incompetence, and institutional disregard because these were mostly sex workers being killed. Therefore, they were seen as quote unquote less dead. And less dead is usually used to define the people whom society have deemed less important. So unfortunately, there's less of a chance that police will investigate with all the resources that they would if it was, a white teenager missing, for example.
Yes. And because of all these reasons, the murders on Gilgo Beach were known as a notorious cold case. But in the past few years, in an effort to generate leads, the Suffolk County Police released new information on a website and set up a task force. And there was also a new police commissioner that came into the picture that inherited the case. So there was a lot of movement in the last few years.
Yes. And some of the new evidence included details about a belt with the initials WH or HM that police believed the then unknown suspect handled at one of the crime scenes. So what was going on when the website was created?
So this was created January 16th, 2020, and the sun was in Capricorn and the moon was in Libra. So Libra is a sign of justice. The symbol for Libra is the scales of justice, and the moon is showing you what's really of the moment. So the moon in Libra is seeking justice. The sun in Capricorn is
Capricorn-Libra combo seems like, hell yeah, we are ready to serve justice.
Ready to serve. That's why Sarah is writing her script. She's our justice seeker here.
She is the justice seeker.
You and I are just here to wreak chaos. So the sun in Capricorn is part of a major stellium, including the sun, which is the spotlight, Mercury, which is information, conversations, websites, Jupiter, which is both help and favor. So it's asking for help. Here's what we know. Help us out. Especially Jupiter's in fall in Capricorn. So it's sort of I think of planets in fall sort of as desperate. So it's we've done everything and now we need help. Also, Saturn is here, which is a planet of death. And the South Node's here, which is about the past. Pluto's here, which is secrets. And with all these in Capricorn, it's related to institutions. And so this is the government revealing information and asking for help. And it's a last quarter moon in Libra. So once again, Libra is a sign of justice. So they've tried everything within their power. Now they're trying something new because they want to achieve justice. They want to, get these answers. And Uranus stationed direct 5 days earlier. Uranus is the planet of surprise and technology. So this could be a surprising effort or, maybe some of the information surprised people who were reading it. Mars was in Sagittarius, square Venus in Pisces. So this is interesting. Mars square Venus is horny. So, and we're talking about real crimes, sex crimes, SVUs, if you will. And so Mars is the planet of violence. Venus is love and related to young women, and squares represent tension. Mars in Sagittarius also seeks knowledge, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. Plus it rules the moon in Libra. So I feel it's about trying to get information and justice for these, murdered women. That's what they're seeking justice about.
Damn. So after more than a decade of investigation, the police found a suspect, and his name is Rex Howerman. He's a 59-year-old Manhattan architect, and he lived in this suburb that was not far from the beach highway where the human remains were first found more than a decade ago. He's twice married. He's quietly raising 2 children. And his neighbor says he was a well-dressed man who would commute to work in Manhattan. There was no reason to believe he could be involved in any sorts of killings. So what's his big 3?
I mean, this is everyone's serial killer worst nightmare. Is my neighbor a serial killer? This suburb that he lived was really nice. I have old coworkers that lived there. I've driven through it.
Because I heard that his neighbor said before, but that man has killed a person. That, how oftentimes sort of the trope is people being I am so surprised. I don't know why all those people are from Wisconsin. But yeah, being I can't believe that my murderer, Rex, killed someone. That all of them were oh, Rex has killed someone before. And had no leads before that. So when they found out, they were oh, yeah, for sure. This
okay, I just know about the suburb. I didn't ask about any of the names. But no, I don't know anyone that knows it.
So he was born on September 13th, 1963 in Long Island, and he has a sun in Virgo, and his moon is in either Cancer or Leo, since we don't know what time he was born. So the sun in Virgo, so many of these sun in Virgo murderers, it's exacting, precise, calculating, obsessive, Virgos can have a fixation with purity, i.e. sex, and they can be perfectionists and also critical. And sometimes those feelings of perfection and criticism can be directed outwards. With the moon in Cancer, you can be obsessed with women and mothers, especially because he has his North Node in Cancer. So the moon in the North Node, like if you're electing a chart for something, you should avoid putting the moon with either node, even if the moon is placed in a sign like Cancer where it's dignified, because it's just the outcome will be unpredictable. The nodes are eclipse points, and you can't really predict eclipses. So there's a hot tip. So the moon in Cancer, if his moon is in Cancer, it squares his Mercury retrograde in Libra. And so this can be someone who has issues with the relationships in terms of communication, commitment, and as we know, he's an infidel, which is such an old biblical word. And also, yeah, he can be like cold or calculating or impulsive. And if his moon's in Leo, then he needs to feel special, validated, and seen. And so if he doesn't, maybe he'll resort to, other methods, especially since with his sun in Virgo, if his moon's in Leo, then it's the dark moon. Those signs don't see each other, so they can have secrets. So the moon in Leo also would square his Mars at 0 degrees Scorpio. And so this is a tendency maybe towards violence. It can be horny. It can be, also like the tendency towards violence would be to like satisfy pathological urges, such as like, and also things like that come out as sort of as like entitlement and narcissism with Scorpio and Leo. And then he has Jupiter in Aries squaring the nodes in like a tight square. And so this is interesting. Whenever a planet squares the nodes, it sort of derails the path. And so Jupiter in Aries can maybe be like entitlement and seeking favor. So like, but like the Capricorn Cancer axis is so oriented towards like work and nurturing or like long games and business. And so, I mean, he was a successful architect, but this like need to satisfy these urges really curtailed his, whole life. I mean, and also many other people's lives, which is more important. And he has Chiron in Pisces opposite Pluto and Virgo. So this is, broadly an aspect of sex pests.
What is a sex pest?
I mean, that's like there's someone who like is weird online. I'm just being kind of crass. But also Pluto's about secrets and Chiron's about shame. So this could be like sexual shame. Pluto's also about sex. So it could be like sexual shame contributing to like the pathological fetishization of specific types, which it sounds like he for sure had, as Nancy Grace talked about his like porn searches. I mean, also, like, I've read an article a long time ago that was sort of about why, like, men are more likely to have types than women and, like types of women, like, that they prefer. And it's how it's oriented towards, like, the narcissistic idea that you have. It's not that you actually find that type to be more beautiful than other women. It's that something made you believe that that is the type of woman that you deserve to be with and that she would elevate you to the position of society that you think you should be at. So, interesting, I suppose. Also, his Mercury stationed retrograde 6 days earlier in Libra. So his Mercury is stationary in the sign of Libra, which is about relationships, and it rules this like Pluto or this Virgo stellium he has, including Pluto, Uranus, his Sun, and his Venus. So it's sort of like it's like a stillness of I don't know. It's really perverted, I guess, altogether. And it makes it louder in his head.
Mutable.
Like, these urges are just like loud, and so it can be like really compulsive.
Yeah, mutable killers continue. I mean, I guess technically he's a suspect. He has not been, charged with anything, or like, in a court of law, he has not been convicted, but he is a suspect. I also really want to know now, like, where his Eros is, because I wonder what that would show.
I don't know, girl.
Mm-hmm. All right. So why this guy and how did they finally find him?